But something I wanted to touch on, and something I noticed almost immediately, and I was texting you about this as the game started, is we did not see Balsa Koprivica. I'm sure we'll get more news about this at some point soon, probably after the game or during this week. But it seems like he had some sort of tweak, and he just wasn't playing today. And without him, I believe we started with a small lineup, but then you saw Tenor Ngom and Quincy Ballard come into the game in the early parts. But then by the end of the game and by the start of the second half, Leonard Hamilton really strayed away from that, and he went to a smaller, more guard-oriented lineups. So what's your thoughts about them missing Balsa today? Because I think, this is the type of game where if he's playing, maybe this game doesn't go to overtime in the first place. I think we really saw what they were missing from him today, because he's so important. While he may not stand out defensively, I think what he does for this team defensively and how comfortable he is within the system, that's what's really important for Florida State.
For sure. And, we've seen a huge improvement from this year compared to last year from Balsa. He was pretty raw as a freshman. Obviously, Dominika Livnicek was getting a lot of minutes last year. And it seems like the same thing could be said of Ngom and Quincy Ballard, that they're still pretty raw. And that Koprivica is probably, the one big man, the one center that you could depend on late in games. I don't know if you could depend on the other two. I think that's just what Leonard Hamilton does. He likes to get as many players, as many scholarship players involved as early on in their career at Florida State as possible, because then you see their progression. Somebody like a Raekwon Gray, somebody like a Balsa, somebody like an Anthony Polite, who played a lot of minutes early on in their career, and they're finally seeing the dividends pay off this year. But yeah, missing Balsa was huge. I agree with you. I think if Balsa was playing, I could have seen Florida State pulling away at the end, or at least maintaining the lead that they had when they went into overtime. I mean, you got three combined rebounds from Ngom and Ballard. They only played 13 minutes total. So obviously Hamilton, he didn't necessarily commit to those two guys, making up the minutes that Balsa would have gotten. I think it was smart going with the small lineup, because, you were depending on a lot of players with more in-game experience. And I would argue that, the center position is probably the one with the least competitive depth on this team, because there certainly is depth, but I don't think you can make the argument that either of those two players at this moment are near the level of Balsa. So if you're a Florida State fan, you're obviously hoping for his return as soon as possible. And I'm sure we'll hear an update regarding, his injury situation from Hamilton after this game.
Yeah. Well, and I think, he's just been hugely important for this team. He's so improved, like you're saying, from last season. It's really night and day, the difference between him last season and this season.